Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Board work session for Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. Can we get a motion to open the work session, please?
Moved.
Second.
Ooh,
All in favor?
aye.
Great. The first topic on our agenda this evening is a discussion and an update on the status of our feasibility study for the chat line. Jill?
Hi. So we have heard from our consultant, Barton & Lejudas, Lee Jones, who's the managing landscape architect, to just give us an update. If the board recalls, we basically had completed the design of the trail, which was a major component of our feasibility study. And we were waiting for certain stimulus programs from the federal government to be released. Specifically, there was a TAP and CMAQ monies for transportation related projects that had been represented to us. Basically, that our project was pretty strong in the running. Unfortunately, we're still waiting for those monies. The pandemic has put a hold on everything. But one of the things that Lee wanted to do is just put on our radar the fact that with the preliminary design of the Trailway project being complete, that we could go after monies for the final design and construction, which is something that we'd be very interested in addition to the TAP and CMAQ grants from New York State DOT. So just to let everybody know where we are in the scheme of things, basically we have met with the community groups just on a preliminary basis to the landowners that are immediately adjacent to the trail, just to let them know of our plans, with the understanding that unless we were able to secure significant funding for this project, we would not be going forward. So the project has been on hold while the pandemic has basically wreaked havoc with everybody's municipal budget, state, federal, county, ours. But we're on hold. We have our consultants looking for any word to when those monies might be released, and we are ready and to apply for any and all of them. So that's where we are so far. Anybody have any questions on the project? Okay, great.
I don't have any questions about it, but I'm thrilled to hear that there are potentially additional avenues to be able to come up with some funding to support this project, because I think that the funding piece all along has really been the limiting factor. I think the idea,
right, and if the board
idea has always been strong, and the funding has never worked out. So
yeah,
the fact that we're starting to see some real potential is very exciting.
And in the meantime, we have done some preliminary work on our end as well. Bob has had Terry Rowe, our engineering intern, assisting with him to obtain a license agreement with MTA that it would allow us to work behind the large stockade fence that's a property delineator at Chestnut Oaks, so that we would be hidden from their property, maintaining privacy for their residents and basically keeping us off their property. So we're trying to think outside the box and trying to do a little bit of legwork that if and when we do receive funding, that we are in a position to be able to go. So very excited about it. And we'll keep everybody posted. The next thing on the agenda was the award of the bid for the Millwood Park Lighting Improvement Project. I'm going to turn this part over to Bob Cioli. He's our town engineer, and he is the one who was responsible for the issuance of our request for proposals for bids for lighting contractors for the installation of the bowl field lights at the Millwood Rec Field. We're very excited that this project is on track, on time. And we're very excited to take a look at the bids that we received for the lighting, so that we're one step closer to having lights over on Millwood, which is pretty fabulous. Bob?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Basically, what we did was we received 9 bids last week on the 27th, and we did the bid analysis, and I broke it down into 3 options for everyone to see. Basically, option number 1 included everything, which is basically the ball field lighting, which is the most important lighting for the baseball field. It included the parking lot and pathway lighting and the tennis court lighting as well. That's option one. Option number two included basically just the ball field and excluded the tennis court lighting, and it included the pathway and parkway lighting. We felt the tennis court lighting was not put into these particular options because it was not anticipated to spend that money just yet right now because of the cost involved. Option number three basically was the bare bones option, which just included the most important item out there, which we felt was the baseball field lighting, which is option number three. And it did not include, again, the parking lot and the pathway lighting, nor the tennis court lighting. So what we did was I had several conversations with Bart Carey, the Commissioner of Public Works, on the best approach here. And we felt, and he felt that the best way to go was for the town to purchase the lighting for the parking lot and the pathway, which would be an added cost of approximately $35,000. So basically, to determine what the cost savings would be to the town, we backed out option three from option two. And by the way, Shock Electrical Contractors came in at the lowest bidder on all three options as well. So it made it easy for our analysis. So there was just one contractor to focus on. So with that being said, when we backed out option three from option two, we came off with about $101,000. So when we backed out what the town cost would be for the materials to purchase to install the parking lot lighting and the pathway lighting, it was a cost savings of about $66,000. So after we discovered that and found out about that, we felt that the recommendation to the board would be to go with option number three to Shock Electrical, and that was in the amount of $393,129. And that's what we recommend. In addition to that, I just wanted to go through the whole budgetary amount on what would be the recommended budget for the whole project, which includes not only the construction, but any add-ons, which are contingencies, which we always put into any construction project for any unforeseen unknowns, which is usually 15%. Also, the cost that we had to pay to Con Ed to bring in the new utility pole for the service, which is $19,000. And then we have to tack on, of course, the $35,000 for the materials to purchase the lights for the parking lot and the pathway. And also too, we had the last item, which was the, just have to look right here.
Engineering.
Engineering, I'm sorry, yes. I had the wrong memo in front of me and I
Okay.
could not see it. Thank you, Jill, for saving me there. It was the engineering costs, which was $105,000, and plus the change order in the amount of 21. So when you add all those up, the total recommended budget would be in the amount of approximately $614,100. And with that being said, that would end my discussion and summary of the memo. And thanks again, Jill.
Didn't want you to think I didn't follow the memo. I definitely followed the memo.
Thank
No,
you.
you did a great job with it. Thank you. And I just wanted to mention one thing on the lights. So, as the board is aware, we were the very happy recipients of a significant, $350,000 SAM grant from Pete Harcum's office, which is fabulous. And it basically covers the price of the installation of the lights at the ball field. But, the devil is always in the details. And so, people may be asking, well, this project was only supposed to be $350,000. Why is it that, the board's now looking at 614? And just little things that, you don't think of initially, but, we have to think of and the engineers think of as we go along, which is for the first time, there's going to be lights at that field. Millwood Park was never used in the dark. So it wasn't just ball field lights. We will be installing pathway lights so people can get safely from the ball field to the parking lot. The parking lot was never lit. So we now need parking lot lights so that to make sure that people can get to their cars safely. And, it's a safe place from the time you drive in to the time you play on the ball field and return to your car. So there's always those additional details that, when we talk about a project, this is why things always cost a bit more than, the original plan, but the 350 certainly covered the lion's share of the installation of the lights. But again, it's everything else that adds on to it that we need to do to have a complete project that puts us at 614. So just so the board's aware. Okay.
Great. I'm really excited about this. Obviously I think this project is just going to be fabulous for
It's going to be great. And,
the ability to schedule it.
by certainly, yeah, the,
It's gonna be
the
great.
lights are going to be installed by the summer. And we're going to be playing under the lights there and well into the fall, which is going to make such a huge difference for the availability of field space.
For sure.
For kids to be able to play.
I also think it's going to have a tremendous impact potentially on the Millwood Hamlet and, the restaurants. and
Absolutely.
So on that are in this
Absolutely.
area. So
It's
I'm
a
very
fabulous
excited about
amenity.
this. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that this one a little bit jumped the queue in terms of the Rec Commission's master plan and the effort that they've, now started towards bringing in a consultant to create that new master plan that will give, all of us a greater sense of the prioritized projects that they have for the community to take on. And I know this was one of the top of their list, but I'm excited to see what other options come out of that planning process as well.
There will be no shortage, I guarantee you. Yeah. I mean, that's a fun list to put together. Not so much to pay for, but to put together, absolutely. The next discussion item is 220-230 Joan Corwin Way, a discussion of the condemnation proceedings. Nick, can you walk us through this, please?
Certainly, thank you. And in the packet is some materials that I'll be referencing. I'll put up on the screen in a moment. But generally, this concerns the real property located at 220 and 230 Joan Corwin Way, which is located in the general industrial zone. The property is located in between the town's DPW facility and the town's recycling facility. The property is currently privately owned, occupied with a garage building that is vacant, has been vacant for over a year. It's on the market, it's for sale. And the building includes two cranes. And the town has had discussions. We have the situation where you have someone who's interested in selling, and you have, not a surprise, an interested buyer of the town, because this property is located in between two existing town industrial uses, the DPW facility and the recycling facility. And the town is restricted on what it can pay by state law. It has to get an appraisal, can only pay fair market value. We can't pay more because we're the most logical buyer for it. We have to pay under state law its fair market value. So the state had an appraisal commissioned, and we entered into discussions over a year ago with the owner, the representative of the estate, and we were not able to reach terms. We've had good faith discussions, not a surprise, just weren't able to reach terms. We needed to move this process along. We encouraged the individual to take certain steps, including getting an appraisal himself so that we could then evaluate our respective appraisals. He had not done that. We needed to start the process. So we prepared a public use report with Bart Carey that is included in the packet. And we prepared a draft notice of public hearing to schedule a public hearing for March 2nd. We then received notification from a property owner that he has received an appraisal. While the numbers are not where we think they should be, and I'm not going to disclose those numbers because we are in negotiations. Those numbers are closer where we think that we can continue to have productive discussions, but that we need to keep this process moving on parallel paths so that the town can move ahead one way or the other. And we're hopeful to continue productive discussions with the property owner. They've been good conversations, and now I think we'll get closer to a meeting of the minds. So let me explain a little bit about the property. As I said, it's in between the DPW and the recycling facility. The property has a garage on it with two cranes, and at the back end of the property is a cell tower. The town has prepared a map showing what land we would take, and we'll put up on the screen, you'll see an aerial photograph. The DPW facility is on the right side of the screen. To the left side of the screen is 220 and 230 Joan Corwin Way. You'll see there's a long rectangular garage parcel. That is the garage. That includes the two cranes. There's also a house that is in dilapidated condition and will need to be demolished. And then at the back end of the parcel, adjacent to the Sawmill River Parkway, the opposite end, the parcel is in between the tracks and the Sawmill River Parkway. At the back end of the parcel is the cell tower, where you can see my cursor moving. And then to the left of that, that is the Parks and Recreation building, as well as the recycling center. So clearly a key piece of property for the town in terms of providing services through its DPW Parks Department and recycling facility. So up on the screen, you'll see there's a figure prepared by the town that shows the parcel. Let me see if I can just orient it better on the screen. There we go. So the town is seeking to acquire via eminent domain lot 1, what we've called the garage parcel. Lot 2 at the back is the cell tower parcel that starts at the back, comes along rather nicely along the top of a cliff. You'll see the gradient lines. Topography is such that it actually creates a good boundary line between the lower garage parcel and the cell tower parcel. So the cell tower parcel boundary line will be at the top of the cliff and then continue down along the side here to create a separate driveway, a flag or L-shaped lot with access for this parcel out to Joan Corwin Way, leaving the property owner with a buildable lot in conformance with zoning and a lot that has an existing permitted use, the cell tower, and that property owner will be able to receive the stream of income from the cell tower leases that exist on that parcel. So therefore, the town is not acquiring any excess parcel and leaving the property owner productive parcel with a significant income stream. The town will be acquiring the lot 1 garage parcel. You'll see that the rectangular garage is now located on one lot. This building, where I'm showing the cursor, will be demolished. And that's really the land. I'm going to talk a little bit now about why is the town acquiring this property, because the eminent domain process is 2 steps. One is acquiring the property. The second is then the discussion about valuation, and they're 2 separate processes. If the town can establish that there's a public use, the town can then acquire that parcel. And so it requires a public hearing, it requires we send notice to the property owner, which he knows we're doing this. We gave him advance notice of this meeting tonight. And we've prepared a letter providing with a copy of all the relevant documentation, including the map and the public use report. And so there's going to be a public hearing scheduled for March 2nd, at which time Bart Carey will be present, and he'll go through in more detail what I'm about to do to describe why this is a public use. And then if the town board closes the public hearing, either that night or subsequently thereafter, if it wishes to continue it, town board has 30 days to make its report and findings, at which time, if it agrees as a public use, it will make that report. We then file a petition with the court. We establish the use to the satisfaction of the court for public use, and the court will then award us title to the property, and we file a map with the court and the county land records division, and we are then the proud owner of this lot 1 garage parcel. And we then also at that time offer the property owner what we think the value of the property is, and he can either accept it and he can accept it, but still file a claim for what he thinks is the value of the parcel. And then we have negotiations to go to court over what the value of the parcel is. As I said, he's provided an appraisal, which I think we can hopefully reach a meeting of the minds. So that's the process. So fairly straightforward with respect to actually acquiring it.
Nick, can I just ask you a question with regard to the timeline that you just set out right there?
Yes.
So when you're talking about if the court makes the award to the town, that we would then pay what we offer to pay what we believe to be the fair market value, and that if the property owner came back and there was a dispute about that, we would enter negotiations to come up with, a resolution. If, however, we are approached between now and the date of the public hearing, can we still enter into negotiations at this point and come to a resolution without having to go through this process?
Absolutely. It's a good situation here where there is, as I said, a willing seller and a willing purchaser. It's a matter of reaching a meeting of the minds, and we're narrowing that gap, I believe. If between now and March 2nd, or even after March 2nd, or even after you issue your condemnation report, or even after we go to court, at any point in time, we can reach a resolution, withdraw that proceeding, and then just enter into a process with a private sale like anyone else would do.
Great, thanks.
So we always have that ability, and we can keep the avenues open. So the public use, why we think this is appropriate for the town to acquire via eminent domain. I'm just going to read from Bart's report. I'm not going to read all of it because you'll hear this on March 2nd, and it is part of a public record before the public and the board. The town's current facility was built in the 1950s and has 10-foot 6-inch high doors that limit the size of trucks that can be purchased by the town. The town has to special order trucks to fit through these openings, and there are several photos included as Exhibit C. The larger garage would remove this restriction and eliminate the onus on the town to special order trucks to fit within the narrower opening of the existing 70-year-old garage. Overhead doors in the proposed garage that we're going to acquire are higher and would allow for indoor storage of the town's larger vehicles. That's important. It may not be so readily obvious, but I've learned more about trucks and heavy maintenance vehicles than I would have imagined. What Bart tells me with some excitement and glee is that the ability to store these vehicles inside will extend their lifespan 2 to 3 years because they're not exposed to the elements. They're not exposed to the change in the weather. They're not exposed to the wind. They're not exposed to the rain, the snow, the ice. And that has a positive impact on maintenance of the vehicles. Also, this building contains 2 cranes that will also assist in either maintenance of the vehicles or prefabricating pipes inside. So there's another positive there. For example, Bart says the town would be able to store 6 large Mack dump plow trucks that cost $250,000 each, increasing the life cycle from 12 years to 14 to 15 years. And likewise with some other dump plow trucks, which, right, $250,000, some cost $75,000. There's a Vactor vacuum excavation truck, which is a $500,000 piece of equipment that can now be kept indoors instead of outdoors. And Bart has other examples of this as well that I won't go on, but there's also additional space outside for the storage of Parks Department equipment, as well as additional storage inside for town records related DPW. And Bart also indicates that now this space could be used to store some additional police vehicles, which would free up additional parking spaces at Town Hall. And again, Bart will go through this in more detail, and the public and the use report provides some of that information as well. So that's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions either as to the process of a public use?
No, I think it seems like, in addition to enabling all of the things that you listed, and I'm sure there's even more, it also seems like a strong move for just future proofing, the requirements for growth for DPW. So that seems incredibly important. I am enthused by the fact that the seller wants to sell, and it sounds like we are, approaching an agreeable selling price, perhaps with or without the full execution of the condemnation process. It's good.
Very good. So the action we would request tonight is that the town board adopt the resolution included in your packet to schedule the public hearing for March 2nd. Again, we provided the property owner notice of that. We're going to continue to have discussions as well. This is just a good next step on a parallel path.
Perfect.
Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome. Okay. What's next,
Putting
Joe?
it in my book.
The next topic on the agenda is the rolling waiver for the train station parking lot.
Right. So we are proposing that effective January 1st, all commuters that are eligible to receive a Newcastle commuter parking permit be granted a waiver for 7 calendar days from the issuance of their first parking ticket for parking without a valid parking permit, to allow people to obtain the parking permit from the town clerk. We have, this year's been a little different, as everybody knows, and we have changed our traditional parking season term from June 15th to June 14th the following year. We shifted it to October, then we shifted it again to December. So understandably, we don't have a regular group of commuters that are able to recognize the signage that we used to put out and just basically get the word out. So to be able to extend a courtesy to those people that are going to be returning to the to work and commuting and parking at our train station, we'd like to be able to give to establish this rolling waiver. Give everybody 7 days. You get a ticket. You all of a sudden you realize that, gosh, we have a new parking season, which, by the way, we have a new parking season. It started on December 15th. But this way you've got 7 days from the date that you get that first ticket to contact the town clerk's office. You can renew your permit online. You can give a call to the town clerk's office. Christina is always available. Town clerk at mynewcastle.org. They're remarkably responsive. And they will talk you through how to fill it out online. You'll get a parking permit. This is all done remotely and digitally so that you don't need a physical permit anymore if you're getting an annual permit. And for those people that are getting a daily pay-by-day permit, those will be available for pickup. Or Christina, that's how we're doing the meter ones. We're actually having people pick them up now. Right. And those can be done basically, while you're waiting for, an application to be submitted.
Yeah.
So,
Whatever anybody, we're trying to work with anybody. So sometimes there are people dropping them off or mailing them in, and we can call them when they're ready or mail them out.
Right.
Some people stop in and wait for it. We're
yeah,
very flexible trying to come.
Yeah, it really doesn't take a long time at all for
Yeah.
us to issue one of those. But we're hoping that this is going to be able to give people a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of assurance that we're working with you. We're not here to snag you. We're just trying to make sure that parking stays for our residents and for those people that are eligible to park in our parking lots, so that when everybody does resume work, there's spots for everybody. Now there are people that have gotten tickets between now and the first of the year. There are 3 to 5 people who sent out in checks to Justice Court. Those checks are being held pending the approval of this policy by the board. And it's our intention to just reach out to those people and let them know that as long as they've gotten parking permits, or as soon as they get parking permits, we'll be discarding the fine that they submitted. And I think there's also a couple of other people that have submitted requests to come in and appear before the judge to just, explain their case. And we would obviously extend the same courtesy to them. Okay.
That's great.
The next topic on our agenda is Black History Month proclamation.
Not much to say here, other than just to note that this recommendation came to us from the Council on Race and Equity, the CRE, as a part of their action plan for the community. One of their work groups was focused on events. I think Lisa Katz was actually the council member who, and maybe Lauren Levin, the council members who were involved in that particular work group. It was headed up by Christina Herman, and Tanya Talkner has taken over the sort of implementation, the phase 2 for this particular work group. And the recommendation was to organize a series of sort of these celebratory months where we sort of recognize important milestones in various sort of cultures. And this is the first one that we have the opportunity to do. And so this is February, and it is Black History Month. And so we have a lovely resolution that the CRE has provided us with that we will be able to pass this evening in commemoration of Black History Month. And I think it's really exciting and a nice thing for us nice tradition for us to be starting.
The next item on the agenda is the 2021-2022 New York State budget requests. Ivy, if you want to.
Sure. So, I can sort of kick this off, but really it's a conversation for the entire board. Assemblyman Chris Burdick reached out to me probably a week ago, 2 weeks ago now. And then Iris Lachode, who is his special assistant, followed up with an email, which is in the packet this evening, with regard to any requests for what they call their budget letter, which is opportunities for municipalities to identify capital projects that are sort of under the $100,000 threshold. So kind of as we spoke about earlier this evening, perhaps not the full project, but a piece of a project. I think they sort of fully acknowledge that this is a difficult budget season. And so the likelihood of sort of being able to realize these requests may not be as high as it has been in some years, but that, they're certainly willing to put the requests in on behalf of Newcastle if there are any particular projects that we have identified that would qualify. And they did make a note in here that they're looking for those projects that would, and they wrote, meet the needs of the most underserved communities or areas in your town. So, I put this in and thought, if anybody on the town board has any ideas. I don't necessarily think we have to do just one. We could, put in a couple of different options and see which ones they'd like to support. Or if there's consensus among us, we could, go with one thing.
And the timeline in this is quite short, right?
Yeah, they want to know by Friday. Of course. I mean, the one thing that, I'll just say, I'll kick this off. There were two things that I had sort of identified, but these are sort of, works in progress where we could use some additional funding. We discussed the Millwood Park lighting project earlier this evening. And I think we identified that, we were looking for $35,000 for materials to support our DPW's work on doing the sort of required lighting of the parking lot, the pathways there in Millwood Park. This was not something that we had originally contemplated when we sought funding from Senator Harkin's office. But in sort of the engineering review and sort of the safety considerations there, we identified this as an additional need. That might be something that I, thought might make sense as a request. And in terms of, an underserved community or area, I think, I don't know what qualifies as underserved, but I think there are certainly economic development benefits that could be realized in Millwood that might sort of qualify loosely as that particular definition. So that was one idea that I came up with. And another sort of thing, just thinking about the types of things we've talked about this year is, and Jill, you have to refresh my recollection as to how far along we are on this, but we talked recently about security upgrades at Amsterdam Park. And that I thought might be another thing that we could.
Well, that would be great. We are definitely, yeah. What I don't know is whether or not this would allow us to be reimbursed for a project that is already done, or would we have to wait? We're never in that position.
Right.
But we actually have literature for from some other similar type grants that I would look to see. Yeah.
So those were my ideas. I'll open it up for everybody else.
I mean, I think the lighting makes a lot of sense. It's a project we're already making a commitment to. And if we had additional funds, then perhaps even the scope of it could be expanded, or we could consider how to expand it.
Yeah, I'm in support of at least now, if we have to answer today, it would be Millwood Park. We've invested a lot of time and energy and obviously had the help from Senator Harkin that making this happen. So I think that's a great place to allocate it.
I actually like both of those ideas. So I'd be willing to ask for both.
Yeah.
I'm with everyone else on that. And especially to your point, Ivy, just with the opportunities with that park being lighted, the softball teams playing at night, them heading over to DeChico's or Spaccarelli's or the pizza place there, I think is a really great community building type of thing. And it's also just a great call. So I'm with everyone on that.
That's great. And, I think to your point, Lori, maybe we can, if we're looking at the Millwood project, there's the $35,000 line for the materials, but maybe we can, kind of go for broke and also think about adding back in the playground that we had to remove from scope because it became too expensive. So. Okay. Great. So Jill, maybe you'll help me write that up and we can
Absolutely.
get that out.
Yeah. I'll secure the pricing for the Amsterdam security. We know the 35 for the lights. And I believe we had some preliminary monies for the playground. I know that was under 100,000, but we couldn't afford to do it. Thank you. Okay, great. The last thing is the payment of claims, which is not really a discussion item. Anyone have any questions on that? And then we've got 6 administrative items. Again, keeping with the board's request of bringing to your attention some of the larger purchases that have already been budgeted. They're included in our budget. There are annual expenditures, but again, just want you guys to keep an eye on where the money is actually being spent. So the first is an authorization to purchase water materials, things like hydrants. We use one particular type of hydrants. They're called Mueller's. So BART is requesting $9,096 in Mueller hydrants. I'm thinking to myself that this order went in before New York State DOT took out the hydrant on 133 and Windmill last night. So we may be coming back for another request for that. An additional $15,751.14. I can't even read my own handwriting. Something in Maine from BART. Core, gosh, my handwriting, wow. Core in Maine for additional water materials for a total of $24,847.26. And again, it's a sort of thing where the water unit keeps these materials on hand so that usually when a hydrant gets hit along the way, it's one of our first priorities to take and replace it. And we want to make sure that we've got them in stock and we're able to do it quickly. Understandably, because of the snowstorm last night, that we were able to just isolate the small section of water main that fed the hydrant. We were able to shut it off. The hydrant's out of service for the moment, but until we're able to take and clear the ice away from that area and take and replace it, that'll be for another night shortly. The next is an authorization to renew annual water maintenance agreement with Carrier and Walsh for the Millwood Water Treatment Plant. It's for their HVAC system. This is a just shy of $10,000 expenditure. It's $97.33. It's our annual maintenance contract to keep the heat and air conditioning unit working properly at Millwood Water Treatment Plant. The next request is an authorization to use town property. This is the Garden Club. They canceled their Mother's Day plant sale last year, and they'd like to be able to bring it back, and we would love for them to be able to do so. It's May 5th through 8th. It's at the right in front of the train station. They are doing a lot of pre-orders this year is their plan, which I think will really help them. But they're still going to have a sampling of plants out there, and we're really excited to welcome them back. So they would need authorization to use town property for that. The next is the Chamber of Commerce also has a request to use town property. They'd like to have a hot chocolate truck on February 13th at the corner of King and Greeley from 12 to 2. And we're thrilled to welcome them as well. And the next is an authorization to purchase a vehicle, which is a replacement police car. That's been budgeted.
So Jill, I have a question, an expense question.
Yes.
What is League Lobster?
I'm sorry, what was that for?
There was a check for League Lobster.
Oh,
That
I'm
was a
sorry.
recreation check. I think that's a company that does scheduling in the recreation department. It helps them set up team schedules and that type of thing. I'll look it up right now, but I think that is off the top of my head.
You knew it had to be a rec thing with a name like that, right?
I had no idea.
They have
we
a
have
lot.
like
Not a lobster dinner that we.
right.
Yeah,
No.
that's what it's for.
I mean,
Through my head right now, and I'm not going to make the lobster. So
if the rec department wants to start a lobster eating league, I'm there.
It's just to manage the softball leagues, the summer softball leagues.
Okay, thank you.
It's really cute.
Sorry for the pop quiz.
No, I thought I knew
When
what
it
it
comes to
was.
payment of claims, Rob's the one.
Okay.
There's a couple of resolutions I just wanted to bring to the board's attention. It's going to be authorization to approve the 2021 MVP rates. MVP is our one of our healthcare providers. UMR and MVP. MVP is actually the HMO that the town offers to employees. And the other one is the authorization to approve the 2021 CSEA vision and dental rates for our dental and health and vision. Okay, and I think the other things we've talked about, and I think that's all I have.
Okay.
I'm going to go for resolutions.
Who's ready? Anyone?
I got him. I
All
got him.
right.
I move to approve the payment of claims in the amount of $852,268.64. 2020 expenditures totaling $419,568.23 and 2021 expenditures totaling $432,700.41. Listed in the summary pre-check writing report and detail voucher detail reports, all dated January 31st, 2021. Checks will be issued and mailed to each claimant listed on Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I move to approve the following premium rates for the term February 1st, 2021 through January 31st, 2022 with MVP Healthcare Inc., the town's HMO provider. The 2021 rates represent a 1.87% increase over 2020 rates as set forth in the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I move to approve the extension of the CSEA benefit program and authorize the town supervisor to sign the agreement between the town of Newcastle and the CSEA benefit fund, extending benefits to employees with regard to Horizon Dental Plan and Goal 12 Vision Plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to adopt the following resolution. Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by the African diaspora to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. Diaspora, pardon me. Whereas Black History Month grew out of the establishment in 1926 of Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas the 2021 national theme for the observance is Black Family, Representation, Identity, and Diversity, and explores the African diaspora and the Black family's complexity as the foundation of African American life and history. And whereas the observance of Black History Month calls our attention to the continued need to battle racism and build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals. And whereas the town of Newcastle continues to work towards becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized for their contributions and potential contributions to our community, the state, the country, and the world. And whereas the town of Newcastle is proud to honor the history and contributions of the African diaspora in our community, I'm sorry I keep on saying that incorrectly, throughout our state and nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Newcastle, New York, declares February 2021 to be Black History Month.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to adopt the following resolution relating to, you know what, I'm going to read this in its entirety as well in light of the fact that this is an important issue. Whereas Article 2 of the New York State Eminent Domain Procedural Law requires the public hearings to be held to consider the acquisition of certain real property located at 220-230 Joan Corwin Way, otherwise known as the property, to facilitate the expansion of existing town highway and DPW garage and maintenance facilities on the adjacent and neighboring parcels for storage and maintenance of public work vehicles and equipment. And whereas the purpose of the hearing will be to inform the public and to consider the need and location of the proposed acquisition, to review the public use to be served, and to assess the impact of the acquisition on the environment and residents prior to acquisition of the real property. And whereas the proposed acquisition map is available for public review as reflected. Now therefore be resolved that the public hearing to be scheduled Tuesday, March 2nd of this year, commencing at 7 p.m. Or soon thereafter, via video conference and teleconference to inform the public, determine and consider the need and location of the proposed acquisition, to review the public use to be served and assess the impact of the acquisition on the environment and residents prior to the acquisition of the property. And let it further be resolved as follows, that the town administrator is to mail individual notices of the purpose of the time, date, and location of the public hearing to each of the assessment record billing owners by regular mail and certified mail. Return receipt requests at least 10 but not more than 30 days prior to such public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think that's it, or is anything added on?
That it?
That's all.
All right, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Pam.
You're welcome.
Thank you.